Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Oscar's Cozy Corner, and welcome back to another Disney Dreamlight Valley decorating long play video. Today, I thought we would do something a little bit different. We have had an influx of Toy Story themed items into the game, of course, coinciding with the Toy Story 5 release, but I thought that it could be fun to do something in terms of the parks, and I thought it could be fun to make our own version of Toy Story Land that you would find in Walt Disney World. So to get started, we're up here on the Peaceful Meadow floating island. I've cleared it out so it's nice and blank for us, a nice blank canvas. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to filter on down in this list to Toy Story and to Disney. We're going to apply that and see what items we have to play with. We don't have a huge range of Toy Story items compared to some of the franchises in the game, but we do have quite a few of the parks items that you will see. So we've got things like the Slinky Dog Zigzag Spin, we've got the Alien Swirling Saucers. So there is plenty of stuff in this list that we can work with to create our own version of the land in the parks, which I'm very excited about. These walls, these bins, they're all taken and lifted directly from the parks, which I think is super, super fun. So what I think we'll do is we'll just place some of this stuff down to get us started. I absolutely love these popsicle benches. We've got these nice tables as well that are themed to the toys, and then we've got the different colored chairs to go alongside it, which I think is great. We do have these little fences, which are so adorable. They remind me of kind of like Meccano sets. We have Pizza Planet, which is obviously the food court type place serving pizza. We've got the traditional Pixar ball, lots of blocks and toy blocks, which actually make, in my opinion, the biggest difference when you go to Walt Disney World and you go to Toy Story Land. It does make it feel supersized because you are meant to feel as though you are a toy and you're toy size. So everything there is pretty oversized. And even though that's not the case in the game at the moment, all of these items are relatively standard size to our character. I do think we can still do something quite fun here and quite immersive. That's what I'm hoping for, and that's what we're going to try to do. So if we just pop a bunch of these items down, we can pop the ice cream cart down. Definitely things like the statue. The thing the statue is actually different in the game is this is gigantic in the park. It absolutely dwarfs you and it makes you feel super small. So not quite the same, but that's okay. I love this pretzel stand. We use this all the time in park builds or park stream snaps. And then we've just got some traditional kind of parks items that we can throw down as well. Definitely concessions. Need one of those, of course. And I think in terms of items that would suit in the park and something that would go maybe outside, I think that works for this. Maybe the Mickey lamppost, possibly some more balloons, and then maybe some of the popcorn buckets. And then of course the newest stuff we have is the Toy Story block stacks. They are from Parks Fest that has just recently finished, and these ones do feel much bigger. So they are about the size of what you would expect this statue to be, but we might have some sizing tweaks to make. But unfortunately, we can't scale things up and down, which would be really fun. That would be great if we were able to scale different items to the size that we want them. And jumping out, there is one item that always sticks in my memory, and I believe it's a Bug's Life item. It's the lighting, but it's under a Bug's Life instead of Toy Story, even though it kind of fits with the popsicle bench almost exactly. And it also fits kind of exactly with the lights you would see in Toy Story Land. So we're going to use some of those as well. So I think that's a great base for us to start with in terms of a little mood board or a little palette at the very least. But I think what I want to do to begin with is get the major items down. And I was toying with the idea of bringing in maybe both Buzz and Woody's house. Buzz's RV could maybe be like a photo spot for visitors, and then Woody's carousel, at least, well, it's still kind of broken down and janky. I thought we fixed this in one quest, so it does look kind of sad. Maybe I'm making a mistake bringing that on into this build, but I thought we fixed that up and it was working at some point. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. And then I did actually go ahead and I bought the Toy Story Goofy stall and the wishing well. So There's something about this wishing well that just cracks me up. I absolutely love it. I love it alongside this actual attraction as well, and I just think it looks really fun. The aliens being in the top just really makes me chuckle, so I'm going to try and incorporate that as well. Now, all of these things together look like they might not go, but I do think that we can pull it off, and I do think that we can do something quite interesting. So I think if we get maybe some of the bigger bits down first, we can create some sort of pathing system based off of that. So I'm thinking maybe we have the well, because it matches so nicely with this. Maybe that's in its own little section with the Star Rangers. I can't remember what this is called, actually. The Space Ranger spin? I think it's Space Ranger spin. So we'll have that in that area. Then maybe we could have the food section by itself. And then perhaps we could do maybe 2 rides. And then possibly, although Buzz's kind of matches like the food area a little bit. We could then maybe have something like this. This is very rough, just a super rough draft of where I think things could go. I would love to be able to make a roller coaster like Slinky Dog Dash. That would be the ideal setup, but unfortunately, as of yet, we can't do roller coasters in the game. But I do think maybe the snacks should be separate to the actual food area. And then I think maybe we could get away with doing maybe some small foliage in the middle. So I'm thinking one of the bigger. I was thinking of maybe using these mostly because they do feel oversized. Of course, we do have the other clusters from some of the other DLCs, but they don't quite work. Like, I don't think actually, the blue one is not a million miles away from Ever After, primarily because it's got that blue tie-in over here. But what I was thinking was having like a little path between these sections and then running some foliage around the outsides. That's kind of where I landed. But I also don't just want this to be square. So maybe instead we could pop this in the middle. Maybe we could do this area in the middle, sort of as your landing point. And then that acts as a spoke wheel for the things coming off that. So we could have the different areas on each side. But again, that feels quite formal when I really want this to be more meandering, I suppose. So let me go back a few steps. Let's take a second. Maybe we could pop that here, this one over there, and then bring these down a little bit. I think that's exactly what I just did, except I moved those two. Okay, let's do that there and that there. Kind of like that. And maybe it's Buzz's that's kind of in the middle. This is very much a go in with no plan and see what happens kind of build, which I'm fine with doing. I like doing those. Oh, I know what I could bring in. The shop that came with those, the house skin, was the Toy Story store, right? So I feel like every good Disney Parks land needs a merch store, of course. It needs a merch store, some rides, and some food and concessions. That about sums it up. To be perfectly honest, that about sums up Disney, which is fine. We love them for it. But I'm just going to tighten all of this stuff up so it doesn't feel like it's sprawling too far into my build. We're just going to bring this down this way, down here, and just make this a little bit more clustered together to save on some space. And then we'll be able to get a real sense of that layout. And I'm sure that we'll tweak it as we go, as we always do. But I think something like this could be a decent starting point. You know, the more that I look at it, the more I do kind of feel like I want this to be central. And then maybe have this slightly further down. So I'm gonna revisit that. Maybe we could put this over here. I do think that Buzz's goes quite well with Pizza Planet. We could do Woody's just off to the side, maybe. And then the toy store could kind of go down in this area, just like that. So it's not a million miles away from that spoken wheel concept that I kind of discussed. Now, if you've watched my long play videos before, you know that I do like to try and find the center of the island. And to do that, I'm going to use a rug. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15. 1, 2, 3, 4. But to find that, all I'm going to do is do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Delete the middle one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, maybe not. I can delete the two center ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Delete. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 7 on each side now, which means that's roughly about the center. But actually, there was a 4 gap on that side, so I can do 1, 1, 2, just like that. And I know that that's now centered horizontally, so I'm just going to delete these this way. And I actually prefer my trusty playing card for this, so I'm going to go and grab my giant playing cards again. I only have 10 of these, so sometimes I can't make it fit, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let me do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can just grab a quick path. Something like this, run it down the edge like that. And then I know where my center is, so I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I know that my Space Ranger Blast or Alien Swirling Saucers, whatever that name is centralized to the middle of the island. Even though it doesn't kind of look it to me, I'm going to trust the process and assume that I did that right. And then off the back of that, I can at least bring this down and maybe... Actually, we'll just use a piece of path for that. So I'll just grab one of those, the very center. Oh, I guess I didn't have much of that path to use. Let me swap for something I have a little bit more of. We can do that and then bring that down. And actually, I quite like that path with this. Then I can move the well and make sure that that is nice and centered. So at least those two are now lined. We do off the back of that. Remains to be seen. Let's do that. Can we grab this well? Yeah. I'm going to bring it down a little bit further. Something like that. Then we can have Pizza Planet and Buzz's RV. Maybe just over here. And I might have some seating over this side. Then we've got the little Slinky Dog. We've got our store, and we've got Woody's Carousel, which again, not the most glamorous. It looks a little bit janky, but that's okay. We persevere. So I think maybe now what the best thing to do is try and get some path down. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap that for the brick road with the border for now, because I think that always goes with everything. And then I'm really just going to Actually, I'm just going to grab that from this menu. And I'm just going to start playing around with like a random path formation. I do think that I should have path go right the way around this attraction, so I'm going to do that. And we'll bring it out and all the way around. Then we can just fill that in, which takes a second when it is relatively large, but we're not going to have to go all the way underneath it, luckily. Just enough to get to the center point where the cars are. Let's do that. One down here. Cross. And I think probably another one. Maybe two will do. So that's all good. One more down there. And just like that. Where do we have that gap? Just by there. And then I think I'm going to do an extra row or column on each side. Because you need walking space in the parks, you do. If everything's too tight and too close together, people get antsy, people start pushing and shoving, and that's definitely not what you want. So I think that can come back even a little bit more. And then we'll take that still to the doorway. Maybe we could even make that 3 wide. And then we could also come off the side like that. Because there's always good nooks and crannies to be found. In these areas for things like planting or just general things like the blocks, just to make it feel that little bit more immersive. I'm actually going to go ahead and make this feel more rounded rather than a big square by just deleting the corners. So that looks good. And then maybe we could even have a path coming off here to the Slinky Dog. I think that's the entrance. But to be honest, I don't like that being on that side because it pushes the dog around when I want to actually see the dog and see the attraction. So we'll do it ourselves. We'll move that, pop this in the center. Round about there, we can add another side just to give it a little bit more breathing room. I actually think we could probably come out a little bit more. And I could just do an extra border right the way around. Although that feels bigger than the that feels bigger than the alien one, so maybe we don't. Maybe we do something like that. Do the path like this, maybe. You know, just mixing it up. There we go. Then we could have another path coming down here, joining on to this area. This is just totally winging it, by the way. This is guesswork, trying something different, trying something new. I kind of like how it looks so far. I wonder how it looks if we change it to diagonal. It also looks quite good, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to change it back for the purpose of making it a little bit easier to see. Got this area, which I think should probably be another big kind of square path area. So let me do another brick road with border, but this one's probably going to be a bit bigger because it's going to be kind of like a, I guess like a shopping plaza section, which just needs that extra bit of floor plan or foot space, whatever you want to call it. We'll just fill this area in right now. Bring that across and down. Just like that. Nearly done, just a couple more rows. And that gives us that sort of plaza area that we can play with. Maybe having the toy store at an angle with the concessions, some food and whatnot. We could even make that bigger if it needs to be. Coming out down here, I know we're kind of nudging into our junkyard or mood board area. I think that's good. And we could have path coming off this way. Disney loves a winding path. Keeps people busy, keeps people on the move. So we can do the same thing. Just like that. And I wonder if we do maybe... Well, we will need to put the carousel on some path as well. So I'll just go ahead and do that super quick. Something like this. I'm going to move that out the way while I fill it in just to make it a bit easier. And then I can just center it afterwards. I cannot wait for the day for the fill path button to come. Not confirmed, but much requested by me. And we'll do Woody's Carousel just kind of coming off the corner of that. So maybe forward one. And we can have that path coming over here. You know, just something like this. We'll just double that line up. Bring it all the way down. Something akin to that. Yeah, that's quite fun. I like that. Obviously, these two are connected, so maybe we could always have some sort of path coming off the side of this and joining up with this one. It kind of comes across here. Just kind of like that. Yeah, I quite like that. Although I want that rotated one more. And then we'll have to do some sort of seating for this, maybe out this side. Actually, I think this side probably works slightly better because it's so enormous, but that's a good start. The pathing will definitely change, but I think it's a good start for this land. I think my next stop is going to be making these diagonal. Just feel like it works a little bit better. We can always swap back, like for example, if something feels a bit small, i.e. in that area, we can swap back and make some changes. But on the whole, I think it's okay to go to diagonal right now. And then I usually add the foliage in at the end. But what I think for this particular build I need to do is maybe add in some of the bigger pieces of foliage now, especially the cluster formations, because they are quite large and I want to make sure I've got the space for them now rather than later. Now, we don't have big, nice green clusters of the base game stuff. If we had clusters of like the maple trees or any of the trees in the background like this, I would absolutely use those. But I'm having to work with what I've got in terms of the big cluster pieces, which is not a lot. So we do have obviously the Pixie Acres ones. But again, they do feel a little bit more Bugs Life than anything else. And then, of course, off the back of that, we do have the Wish Blossom ones, which I can't use because they're all snowy. So I'm kind of limited to the Storybook Vale ones, which again are mostly blue and kind of fir trees. However, because there's blue in the Pizza Planet, because there's blue in the Space Ranger attraction, think I think that I can get away with it. And it just makes it a bit easier when working with big spaces like on these floating islands to use some of these things. That doesn't mean that we can't mix in green foliage with it, but generally it's just easier to kind of get a handle on it when it's nice and clustered like this. So I'm going to do that. I might even bring in the purple ones just because there's obviously purple on the well and stuff like that. I know the mushrooms don't make a ton of sense, but I think it's fine for what we're trying to go for. Maybe bring another one of these in at the back or down the side here. Kind of like that. And then possibly another purple one, let's say, out this side. Maybe around about here. And then it might be that we have to move the Buzz RV. Maybe that ends up being something down by here, like a little feature point. But I think that just gives us a half decent base to work from, and we can add in some of the greener trees to tie in all those colors, because, you know, that is the palette. Essentially, the palette of this big centerpiece is blue, green, and purple. So I think having the trees match that is absolutely fine, and we'll put one maybe down here as well eventually. But for now, let's carry on. I'm gonna tweak this one and move this down a little bit because I did say that we will probably have some sort of seating area out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, and we're gonna do maybe something like this. If I push that up, does it go under? It does, but I can just make that go back a little bit. Bring this down and out. Keep that where it was, and then we can move that tile up. Match these, and then add in these extra rows. Now, I think I probably want this area to be diagonal to match the restaurant, so I'm gonna have to keep doing that, and then we'll do maybe the diagonal coming back up this way as well, and I'll just have to see how that looks. This might be a little bit too short. Yeah, I think if we do something like that, we'll save that by accident. But carry on filling this in as best we can, and then we can just change it all to be diagonal again. If I do that and that, I think that's a decent seating area actually, and then Buzz's goes quite nicely in that space. Kind of like that, which I think is fun. So I think that's a great starting point. Let me grab some of these tables, which really do just match that Pizza Planet theme. Kind of something along the lines of this. I don't know if there's some format for restaurants on how they lay their tables out. But I think maybe something like this works. Do maybe those in line at least. And then possibly these two slightly off center. Yeah, I think that works. And then this one could come down to about there. Because I do have to try and fit in some seats, but I'm going to do a mixture of the red and the blue, just so it's all kind of like tied in together. So we'll try and do at least 2 of each color per table, I guess. Actually, no, we don't have to be completely uniform like that. We can have some tables that have 1. And then maybe we bring in the red. I can do something over here, like 1 there. And then 1 also by there. 1. Maybe 1 out that side. A red one there. Maybe a red one here and here on this one. We'll go with the full 4. And then over here we can do 2 red ones. So something like that. So it's definitely a food court that gets used. That's the main thing. And I might even tweak some of the path to break it all up. So maybe the plaza over here could have a separate path to the one over here. But we'll think about that as we progress the build. But for now, I think that goes pretty well. And what I would do is bring in maybe some of the trash cans or the recyclers to make it feel as though this is an area where you absolutely do not litter. Thank you. Drop that in there. Maybe we have another one kind of like right in the middle. You can never have too many bins for messy guests. That is for sure. I like that. Just as a starting point, we can add some flourishes later on. I already think this is looking quite fun. So what I want to do is I want to try and get some of the blocks in place now. Maybe something like that over there. And then maybe there could be one in this section. What I'm also thinking actually is getting the lights in. So the lights in Toy Story Land are pretty much everywhere. So you would have them really spread out, kind of like that. Maybe move that there. And we could do some more. They're definitely like all over the paths, which I really like. If we did maybe that. Oh no, those are a bit close. Those are a bit close. Let's do one there, one there. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And then maybe we could have one over that section. I guess I could rotate them fully as well. Kind of like that. And then maybe we do that for that one. And it's that kind of stuff that makes it come alive. Maybe we do one here. Then maybe another one in that area. And then we can also possibly try and fit some in on the way there too. Fun. And we've got these big, nice toy structures. I don't know whether to just use these as like nice big points of interest. You know, like have them clustered or something like that. Or just dotted about. We've got this one as well, which is a nice size. And then we've obviously got this big one that says Toy Story on top with the actual logo. That makes for like a nice little vantage point. Maybe that. And then I could possibly bring in the blocks on this side too. Something like that. Although this kind of really feels like an entrance, right? Like kind of like that. Maybe with this in the middle. Because you will be landing at this well. So I don't know, that kind of feels something like that. And I don't know whether it's a case of this getting pulled further back. I'm not really going to use the ponds for anything in this build. I just don't think they're entirely necessary. If I grab those as a group, I can bring them a little bit closer. Although maybe they don't need to be that close to the well. Maybe they can be further up there. Kind of like that. That's fun. Let's save that. Now I'm just looking at this foliage and wondering whether that's too claustrophobic for this entrance bit. So what I think is maybe if I rotate it this way, so it's more like that and like that, it gives a little bit more breathing room to this area compared to what it was, which would allow us to have a slightly bigger kind of path section. So we could do maybe a slightly bigger area around the well. Like this. Let's just do these borders all the way around. And we could take maybe a corner off of each because that'll be diagonal. And then we can thicken that up as a 3 wide path just underneath those blocks. Unless we do 5. No, I like 3. And we can change that to diagonal. And that feels better. I wonder if we could actually create some sort of more structured feel for the entrance, just kind of like that. And then maybe we can add some small foliage in, some shrubs and things. And I do kind of want to block this area off, so I probably won't end up using something as large as this, even though that does kind of fit. But maybe just block this area off with some trees, so the focus is on this section right here. Which is fun, unless I did, let me just remove that a sec, unless I did the blocks coming this way. Because we could maybe do, might not be able to fit it quite how I'm envisioning, but something like that. And then what you could always do is pop the fences like in the middle, so it doesn't look, so those are not like the full archways, because they do fit, but that's the entryway. Oh, I do kind of like that. I think that's fun. And then maybe we have just the Dreamlight tucked on each side. Kind of like that. Or just playing around, we could group that and have it so the Dreamlight is at the front and the back. Unless, and I keep trying different things, unless I move the well down slightly. And we move these two. And we pop the little Dreamlight sign in the middle, just like that. I think that is the strongest one. Something like that. So I'll just save that as entry real quick so I can place it down. And I can rotate it. We can just drop it in. And then it just means I have to tweak the path, delete that one, and that still fits. So we can get rid. And this can be our first bit. So just bring that down. What was it, 2? And bring these down 2. And then we can just, okay, not delete everything when I put, not this. Pop that there. And And then we can center that just like that. Change it back to diagonal. There we go. That's a nice entryway. I like that. Do we need the popsicles? Do we need the popsicles? Probably not. Oh, no, that looks terrible. Probably not, because otherwise I'd have to have them at this. Well, I wouldn't have to. I can do what I want, but I'll leave the popsicle sticks for now. They can be for the other parts. I will say maybe that does all need to come back a little bit so it doesn't feel like you're walking immediately onto the ride. Maybe it needs like a little bit of space to open up like this before you hit it. But that's fine. It's all about trial and error. But there's never any errors here. It's only ever trial. Let's do that. Let's delete these ones. Delete these. Get rid of that corner. And we can do one there. Maybe it could just be like that instead. Maybe it doesn't need to be so... large. And that will be centered, and then let's change that. Actually, no, it needs that extra row. It needs the extra row. So it's down one, like that. Pop that in the middle. Then we've still got that nice little spaceship entry leading on to the attraction immediately. And then maybe we could put some shrubs or something in those areas. So that's our nice Toy Story entrance, which I think is fun. Just looking at that in terms of lighting, I didn't know whether to have the popsicle lights kind of dangling down as well, because you can actually get quite close. So I didn't know whether to do maybe something like that, so you can see them kind of like through these gaps. And I think we could probably just like hide the sticks with foliage. Not that you have to, but I think you could make it feel like a nice little walkway. It was me talking earlier about having wide paths, and I feel like I've got tiny little paths all the way around, but that's okay. That's fine. We don't need to stick to our word. That's what these videos are about. All right, I quite like how this all looks so far. Maybe I don't love the clustering. I thought that I would like the clustering, but maybe I don't love that as much as I thought that I would. So maybe it needs a bit more spacing out. Yeah, I think I prefer that. Something... Well... yeah, something along those lines. And what else have we got? We've got balloons, we've got the path, vents, obviously the bins. I did forget about the nice little toys. We've got a photo booth as well, and then we've got like test your strength, the little popcorn cart, this little grabber. So that could be like the little arcade section, I guess. Maybe it goes in here with the as the main plaza. This could be the sit down food, but then this could be the main plaza of stuff to do. And maybe we move one of the concessions out of that area. That could be a possibility. I'm gonna drop this statue in instead. Round about there. Then we can grab some of those things as well to put them over this side. Some of the blocks, for example, we can bring in just as extra environmental decor. The tall blocks are really cool just because they've got so much height to them. So you could do that maybe around about there. And we've got the actual like numbered building blocks, which I always love. Maybe that could get dropped in. Possibly by there. And then we'll do maybe that setup with the statue. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, let's do something like that. I don't think I'm missing anything from Toy Story. Maybe I am, but I think those are the 2 Toy Story attractions that we have. Well, 3 including Woody's house, but it's not really the attraction, it's just the house skin. But this is definitely starting to take shape. I was just taking through some of the more of the items that I've got in that list. So there's a few things I didn't put down. The single balloon, which I really like. I don't think I need the Main Street lamps. I also don't think I need any of the park clocks for this particular one. I do like this statue of Woody and Buzz, but it is frozen, so it does feel a little bit random. Like if it was in color as a statue, that would be pretty cool. But I just wanted to make sure primarily that I didn't miss anything. I do love the parked banners, but again, not for this section. They do feel a little bit more Main Street. We could make use maybe of some of these topiaries if I put these down, just as kind of like edging plants or something in between, you know, whatnot like that. That could definitely work. But I think we put everything down. Did I put the aliens down? I did put the aliens down. That's of utmost importance. So I think this already is coming together. Something super important in the parks is getting benches down for people to sit, to take a rest or a break. So we're just going to go through right now and we're going to find some spots for some benches. Now these popsicle benches are absolutely adorable. Like the colors of them, I love so much. That kind of like, I don't know, it's almost tropical. The way it goes from the pink into the yellow or the beige, it just, I don't know. It gets my color juices flowing, which is a terrible thing to say. Let's put 2 of those benches on this section. We could even spread those out a little bit. Actually, no. You know what? Let's have this as a solo section. Is that right in the middle? Kind of like that. I don't know whether these need to be on. I don't think they need to be on the path. I think they can be just off the back. I'm fine with that. Let's do one of those there. Let's do another one maybe down this side. Roundabout there. Something like that. Bring this on down. I'm going to leave this section for now because I don't know what to do with that Buzz RV. We can do maybe one there. One by there, next to each other. And then maybe we do one out the front, just like that. Very important to have good seating. And then I do just want to go through and place some of these bins down because, again, just as important as having seating, it's important to have good trash and recycling spots. So we'll just find some nooks and crannies to put these in. And it does seem as though I left some for myself, which was quite smart. I was not intending on using those for bins or anything like that, but I don't know, they've just opened themselves up for that use. We can do something like that all the way around. which works for me. Oh, I'm rotating them and they're the same on both sides. Silly me. So we've kind of got the utilities in place as well now, which is always a good thing. Maybe we should try getting in some of these fences now. Now, I don't think they need to be absolutely everywhere alongside every path, but I do think it's important that we do have a fair amount to keep people guided on where they need to go. So maybe we could do one there and then perhaps here. Possibly. See, that one's complicated because it's got the edge on it. I don't like that one there. We could do them down here. Maybe one about there. And then let's do 3. Oh, we can do 3 in there nicely. That's good. All right, those need to be brought a little bit closer to the path. Like that. And then I think we could probably do one on this side. One just... I was going to say just underneath that, but it looks like it won't fit. I was going to say one about there. And then let's do 2 across that side. Like that. I'm going to bear in mind where I might use the hedges instead of these, so I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind too. And maybe I move that down. Like that. And what if I go one more? Yeah, okay. I think let's grab one of these and place it along the back. Let's see if we can fit 3 in. I think if I come across by 1 tile, that might be the best. Kind of like that. Let's do the same down here. Let's see if I could get 3 in place. Could I get 4? I could, but I think 3 is fine if I just kind of like center that. Because I don't want it to feel like super claustrophobic or anything either. Let's do 1 here. 1 here. That works. Hey, that looks good. And then maybe we could sneak one on this corner or this edge. Can always move this back. I think we could probably get one in down this side too. Although those ones, could they tie together? No. That's fine. We can just have the little gap. And then maybe one down there. Okay, that works for that bit. We'll definitely have some running down the side here. I think I could probably fit 4. Can. And then maybe we'll just have like shrubs along the back instead. I'm going to make that path a little bit bigger. And then maybe I could bring one on that side. Kind of like that. Are the diagonal ones super close? They are as close as I can get them. Yeah, probably Probably by there. Yeah, there's quite a few spaces on this side I could work with, just like that. And then maybe one there. Yeah, great. I think that all looks good. Like I said, it doesn't have to be too much, but just enough to kind of keep the vibe. And I think it turned out well. I don't like that one. There we go. That's a good starting point. Well, I say starting point. We've been decorating for an hour, but let me then take a look at what else we've got. Yeah, I think maybe I start bringing in some of these, and maybe we just surround the ride areas. Perhaps with these. Actually, let me delete those because we do have a corner. So I did something like that. I think I could fit the smaller one in. Oops. Fit the smaller one in just like that. And I should be able to do the same thing on this side. Because the nice thing about those hedges is they're not too big. They don't feel too claustrophobic, but I think they just work. There we go. And then we can bring that down. That side, kind of like that. We can do the same thing maybe around this. So if I put the corners on first. I think that's right. And then I can just build off the corner. Make sure I do the same amount on each side. That's going to interfere slightly, so I'm going to have to move that across. Actually, I can just rotate it. Grab that one. Pop that in place. And then I'll just do 2 running down that side. That then interferes quite strongly with that one. I think a little bit of rotation will solve that. And I'll just do 2 on that side as well. Okay, I can still get the rotation on that, which is fine. Yeah, that works. And then I'll just have to bring that one in a little bit. Kind of like that. And I wonder if I could fit the archway of blocks. I'd have to move this one. If I could fit the archway of blocks maybe in that spot. Kind of like that. And then I can move the lights over. There we go. Okay, yeah, that works. I mean, could I fit one in there? Is it going to let me? No, but could I fit the smaller one in? Maybe? I quite like that. Does it feel a bit sad being on the inside of a hedge? Maybe. I don't know. Then I think I want to do the same thing with the hedging around this main plaza. So I'm just going to do a similar thing. I'm going to pop that down on that corner. I'm going to pop that down on that corner. And one down here. And then I'll just infill the gaps with these. And then hopefully it'll fit, or at least fit with the smaller one or a tweak. It does, thank goodness. So I can fit 2 down that side. I'm going to be able to fit more down here. And then probably the smaller one again. And I could just do the smaller one to finish off just behind that bench. And then we can do just 2, I think is fine. Unless I do 2 on the small one. And then we could pop that just outside of that path. Yeah, that looks good. If I fit that archway in around here, maybe? You could possibly even do it on the inside. I don't know, could we delete like a tile and have the archway sitting inside that? Feels... I don't hate that, actually. I think that could work. No, I hate that. Maybe we don't have an archway over there. Archway vetoed. It's very generously started raining, like a Florida mid-afternoon storm, but that's okay. We can persevere. I'm just looking at the little bits we have. So obviously we've got like the photo booth, we've got the popcorn stand. I do feel like the popcorn stands should be in more places than just the food court area. So we could definitely do them dotted around. Maybe we do 2 or 3. Just kind of like dotted around by the, maybe by the benches. So you could grab something and then sit down to have some food. Actually, there's already one on that side, so I won't do that there. And maybe the other one goes... Well, actually, maybe the 2 is fine. Oh no, we'll put it like on the entrance to the spinning ride, which is perfect, right? Get kids spinning around and then make them all unwell. I'm just going to see if I've got any other path that will fill this. I know I've got the Main Street path. Just want to see how that looks. See, I don't love that Main Street path with this. I think I prefer the brick path. I just really like how that looks. But that's the only one I have enough of to replace, which is fine. Unless I do kind of like delete those and delete those. I don't know if this is going to work, but I still don't even have enough of that one. Ah, it's because it's still connected. That's fine. That makes sense. If I change it to that, what if I do a clean break? Like a much bigger break. Would that work? Or it still thinks it's connected. It does that sometimes. Like this bit is obviously quite clearly separate now. Oh, it has done that. That was just how much I had left. Never mind. Ignore me. Because you could always do like the natural path in these sections. Actually, if anything, the natural path should be the main walkways, right? And that should be brick road. Let me just destroy... Not destroy. Let me just destroy these paths a second. So I can really get a sense of breaking them up and seeing what might work together. So there... Actually, no. It's down here, right? This one and this one. Because I might be able to do, depending on how it looks, like this central area in the natural rock. I still don't love that. Okay, these ones broke off. And then maybe... that gets to be the brick road, but... I'm just not entirely sold on that natural path. It's a bit dark and a bit dreary. But we don't really have anything that's kind of like up to... I do kind of like that path, but it's a bit much for the whole thing, I think. It's a bit much for the whole thing. So, you know what? I'm just gonna hit undo. We're just gonna go all the way back. We're gonna reconnect everything. And we're not gonna touch. We're not going to touch. I was just thinking, maybe in this area, what if we had like a... This might be kind of strange, but what if we had like a sand pit, like a little play area for the younger kids? I could move this popcorn stand maybe over here. And you could maybe do like... If I go to paths, I know I've got the sand path from one of the Star Wars bundles that I bought. You could have like a little sand pit area for the super youngsters. That could be kind of cute. And you just have this path approach it. Maybe like... Yeah, maybe like that. And then I would have to get rid of that one though. Let me see what that looks like. If I do that, will that feel a little bit more diagonal? It does. And then could I fit maybe one of these in here instead? I could. So you could do something like that, maybe. I wonder how I get... Do I just change that one tile? Yeah, it would just be that one side, right? I don't know if I like that idea. It was an idea, but I don't know if I like that idea. So you can use it if you like. I'm going to scrap that. And we're just going to take it back. Take it back to where we were. All right. I do think that these concession stands typically are usually found like on the edges of rides. So like exit through the gift shop type vibes. I think that would mean I'd have to move that, but it does fit. It does fit in there. So I could do that right in the center like that. And then maybe we have... I was going to say maybe we have one more over here, but we've got buzzes over here, so maybe it doesn't need it. Unless we had one like down in this area. And I got rid of the bench here and we had the concession stand round about there instead. Something like that. And then where did my popcorn stand go? I need to bring that back in. Just kind of around this section, just like that. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly see what rugs I've got. I know that I've got some... I'm sure I've got a playroom rug. And I thought that maybe some of the stuff could go on that just to kind of like break the path up or make it feel like it's its own little section, you know? Something like that. I don't know how many of those rugs I have. I have 5. But maybe I can find a spot for them underneath those popcorn bucket or those popcorn carts. We got another one down here. Maybe there, and it just has to go back onto it a little bit. I don't like that. I don't like it. I think I've spent the last, what, 45 minutes just adding stuff and then going, nope, not for me. But that's okay. It's all about trying different things. What am I missing over here? I feel like I'm missing a... No, I've got a recycler. Maybe that's all it was there. All right. Let's find some space for these. Because obviously we got the pretzels cart. We got the ice cream. I'm going to put a few more of these inside here. Although those ones don't go quite as well. Maybe we change the ones in this plaza section to be the green ones. But we could have some arcade type games down the back. Maybe we could have 2 of those. Perhaps we could have a couple of test your strength ones. And then I wonder if we could do photo booths as well. Possibly. Where do you want to go? I do want to get these photo booths in, but maybe it's not this section. Maybe we find a home for the photo booths kind of around the Buzz RV. Something like that. Yeah, I like that. And then let's do... Let's just do some of the different little things over here, just as kind of decorative elements dotted about. I don't know what I'm doing with these aliens. What are they doing? What are they doing? And I like having the toy shop though, because it does feel like it's meant to be there. Definitely feels like somewhere you need to go in and spend money. And then maybe I do just bring in... I know I wasn't going to originally have any seating over here, but maybe we do just... No, I don't think it needs it, actually. I don't think it does. Maybe they could do with rugs underneath them to kind of like lift them or separate them out. I don't know what color rug would work best. Or, the red's a little bit small, but... How big is the oval? Oh, I was going to say, how big's the oval rug? But it's definitely too small. Maybe we could do the little swirly... No, I've only got one of those. Wait, I do kind of like having that come out the back of the cart. That's quite fun. Almost as if the cart has the tail. And then maybe we do... I don't think we can do the playroom one properly. We could have this as like where you stand to order. I think that works. That's fun. And then I'm just going to jump back into the Disney tab, the park stuff. And I'm going to see if we can bring in maybe some of these regular park benches in this area. So people could kind of like just have a sit down. I don't really like those, to be honest. Not in this build. I love those. I absolutely love these benches, but just not... It's not giving it to me in this specific build. To be honest, none of this area quite is, but I'm trying to work with it. Could I do something like that? In terms of the tiles, just to break everything up a bit? I mean, that's a bit different, right? And I wonder if I could place something in there. Is there another path that I could grab? Maybe this is where that one kind of comes in, because it's not a million miles away. Something kind of like that, just to... No, I hate that. I don't mind it with just the grass, but I hated it with those tiles. This section at the moment is my least favorite, but maybe it'll come together. Maybe it'll come together. I think what I'll do is I'll just fill this in, and maybe I'll use the stone flag steps as stepping stones. Or I just kind of leave it open. But if I jump into rugs, I know we've got these flagstone doormats, which could work. I'll just have to make sure I do them non-diagonal so they can actually touch each other. But if I move that across by 2... kind of like that. Does that line up? No, it doesn't. It's bugging me. That's better. There we go. I could do something like that. That works. That's fine for me. And then let's just do that with the photo booths. Like, this is just where you can take cute family pictures, I think, instead of taking a picture with the RV. I mean, you could take a picture with the RV as well if you wanted to, but I'm just going to tuck that back slightly off the path. Then maybe down this area, we can bring in some balloons just to make it feel a little bit more family orientated. Like that, perhaps. And then maybe some just on the edge of the building. Yeah, that's cute. I like that. I think that's most of the stuff, like, actually used. Which is great. So then we can just go in and kind of, like, fill different areas with stuff now. Well, as if that's not what we've been doing. As if that's not what we have been doing, but... it's definitely, like, come together. So I think we can still just have like some more blocks and stuff dotted about, you know? I think it's fine. But maybe we just have like the single... Wait, why have I still got that bench there? Did I leave that down? Bring in some of the blocks, maybe some of the statues again. We could do maybe the... Have we got another tall one? We have, but we could do another tall one. Maybe just behind the pretzels cart. Oh no, I don't like that. I've got the smaller blocks as well. Kind of like that. And then where else have we got? The bigger gaps are going to be foliage. But I almost think that's like it block-wise. Just wondering how that would look to have those going down the sides. I do think that works. Let me just bring it over here and see how close I can get to the concession stand. Maybe I could grab the smallest one and that would fit. Yeah, it would. Cool. All right, let's get some more balloons just dotted around, so kind of like the parks feel comes through properly. Maybe one, I don't know, by there. One down the side of the chairs. Maybe we get some in the, like in the middle going on over here. And then I think as soon as we start getting the foliage in, it's gonna all really tie in. We've got these single balloons as well, don't we? We have these little single blue balloons, which I think are super cute. So I can just find some homes for these dotted about. Which is fun. Yeah, just like that. I like that. I wish I could put the red one outside too, but you can't, unfortunately. And I think that's about it. I think I've used all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete these for now, so they don't take up too much more space. I'm going to bring in the block over this side. And maybe the statue again. And then maybe we could do that heading towards the shop just to break it up. Actually, I think that works quite well as the entrance to the shop, but then you can also go off to the side. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into the furniture. Well, not the furniture tab. We're going to jump into the trees tab. We're just going to start placing some of the bigger trees down. So first off, I'm going to start with these nice large cypress trees, because these do share a similar-ish color. I don't mind mixing my greens, but they do share a nice similar color. Some of the stuff we've got going on. So I'm just going to dot a handful of these around. Just kind of like that. We do have the big holly oak trees as well, which are nice for having the big canopies on them. You know, something like this. I don't need as many of these, I don't think. Maybe 2 or 3. And then maybe we do one possibly out the back over this side. Although maybe one like in the middle over here would be quite cool, just behind Buzz's RV. I think that kind of works, just because it's got such a thick trunk to it. Because I want these areas to feel like enclosed in their own little sections, but then still accessed via the middle. So those are those ones. I don't think I need the cypress ones. I feel like they feel a little bit too tropical, maybe. I do think these tall grasses, though, could be interesting. Because they do feel oversized without being too... I don't know, too out there, too A Bug's Life, maybe, for lack of a better term. So some of those could be used as well and dotted about in a fun way. So we've got some of the small ones as well. What do we got over here? Maybe I could drop... Actually, maybe I could drop another one of these in. And then maybe I could squeeze one just out the back. Kind of like that. You know what? That tree, I think, works better over out the back. Kind of like that. I mean, I could even bring in some flowers, but these feel a bit pastel-like, I guess, for this space. The big sunflowers could work. Maybe around the Slinky Dog one. I know that they're kind of Tigger adjacent. But actually, I feel like they fit the oversized theme at the very least. You know, kind of like that. Just over on that section where it's got a bit of orange. Then again, kind of all of it does have some orange tones, so I don't think it would be egregious not to put them in. Maybe something like that. So there's 2 up there, 1 here and 1 there. And then we could do... I mean, it's all very bright and colorful, which is the point, right? I don't think any of these trees would work because they're all a bit fashion-based. But if I do scroll down through, I know that we've got... some of the others that could work. I didn't know whether the pastel patch flowers would work in this area just because... well, they're pastel. And it's more of a primary colors area. So I think I'll just carry on and try and fit in maybe some more of like the green trees that we've been looking at. Kind of like one of those. Again, I know we've mixed the canopies quite a lot. Actually, those green trees do have quite a dark canopy, whereas I'm looking for more something like, you know, something like the maples, the tall maples. Those have got what I think are one of the nicer canopies. And they're nice and tall. So we can fit those around the edges. I know that we've got a different size one as well. We do have the little one, which is grand, but I know there's a different size one that leans slightly, kind of like this, which works for going out the back. And then what else we got? We got the light birch trees. All these different species of tree. And I think that's kind of the colors that we should go with. So I'm going to grab some more of these and just start popping these in different places. I know there's a double one of the birch tree. Is it this one? Oh, it is that one. Let me drop that in behind there instead. And maybe I could pop it out back. Kind of like that. And if we have space for it down there, I think we do. Can't forget this side. And maybe down the back of that we need some of the smaller ones like this. And then I think maybe one of those could work, and then maybe the smaller birch just slightly further up. Just kind of like that. Which looks good. Yeah, that'll look quite good to me. I don't know whether to drop in any of the trees in the middle bits. I don't want to cast too much shadow, but I was thinking, could I fit one like maybe in there? Which I actually think looks quite good. We could have it tucked or nestled in amongst that tree. Pop one down here. And then maybe we sneak one in just on the other side of Buzz's. And I think for big trees, that should be about it. Just move that back slightly. What does that block if I do that? It blocks a lot of the purple of that when I like the purple, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, and then if I jump into the underbrush instead, and we scroll down, we should have some of the smaller shrubs that I'm thinking of using. Now, this is the Peaceful Meadow Island, so I think if we grab some of those shrubs, it will at least fit visually. And then we can just dot those. You know, we can have the flower bushes as well. We can just dot these around. Do I need a tree out the back here? I think I might. Maybe we have the leaning one instead, so it leans out. Was it this one? It was. So it leans out that way. And what have we got? We got these flower shrubs. But actually saying that, I know I said that the pastel patch doesn't go, but it probably does match the... Probably does match the seats, right? Where are you? There. I mean, we've got the ever-growing one, which definitely matches the seats. So let's get some of that pink going on too. If we can find a home for some of these. Maybe one out the side of this tree. I don't need too many, but just enough to tie it all together. Let's pop one out the back. Maybe one out this side if we can squeeze one in. Luckily, there's no item limit on the floating islands, so we're good on that front. Yeah, and I thought I might be able to fit one in the center bit, but if I move that, maybe I can. Yeah, kind of like that. And then I guess maybe we could squeeze in some of these pastel patches too. If we had these in every possible colorway, I would die a happy man. I can tell you that. Let's just sneak those in. A few, not too many, just kind of like few and far between. And I'll always keep them kind of against the big version instead. So it's not too dissimilar in colors. All right, I think that's good. And then what else did we have? We had the... I need to be an underbrush again, not trees. And if I come down... I've got the Peaceful Meadow ones again. Just drop some of these in different places. Wherever kind of looks suitable. Well, not there. Let's move that back. Maybe one by there. Dropping in like little bits of foliage like this is honestly my favorite thing to do. I know it might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but I think it's just the stuff that like finishes everything off, you know? It just makes it feel complete. At least in my opinion. And it adds that like just extra sense of realism. I think that's what it is for me. It just adds that little touch of realism on the end that makes me think, oh yeah, I could go and actually see this. One by there. Could I squeeze one in at all on this side? I can. Actually, no, let's move that one. No, I think that's good on that front. And then finally, I think the two things I'm just gonna see about is possibly, I don't know, possibly some ferns creeping in just to add a little bit more texture. Just a smidge, just in a few different places. Because we are running out of room. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is see about the beach grass to see if we can fit any of that in. Because the beach grass is great for, again, adding texture, which is what I love to do. Can't squeeze that one in there. I think that's about it on that side. We can fit one there, which is nice. Maybe one out the back. And what about one just out the side like that? And then if we scroll all the way down, we should get to the beach grass. Now, one of these can be clipped. It is this one. So one of those can be clipped into pretty much everything, which is nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then it just kind of looks like everything's growing out of it. You know, like even this section, just having that kind of come out of the grass, just... We're kind of mixing A Bug's Life and Toy Story here, but you know what? That's fine by me. Another one there. Maybe we do one in the middle. One on the edge. It does kind of feel like a kid's garden though, you know, like this is what I picture when I think of, well, I guess when I think of Toy Story and kids. Just everything kind of overgrown and exciting, and it feels like the world is super big. Let's do one over there. And let's do one here. Maybe one there. And a little bit out the front. And I think just looking around, we might be pretty much done. Just going to move these forward slightly. Can I fit a shrub in there now? Can. Haha. Let me just grab a grass and pop it in there. And I was just looking at the fences just to see if the fences are all kind of in place, and I think they are. I'll be able to do something like that on the diagonal there. Maybe I can bring these ones across. I am going to go ahead and say... I just fit that in to block that edge off. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say that we are done with the build. All right, so just giving you a quick tour from where you land. Obviously, you land at the Alien Toy Story well, which I still love. I still love this well. But you can wander around, you can see the foliage on either side, and then we've got the nice big entryway up here with the big toy blocks, really setting the scene for this space and making it feel, I guess, larger than life, which is what you're after. We've got all the elements that we've kind of used throughout the build in this area. So you can come through here, take a look at the ride straight away, see what's going on, and look at that. We've even got, wait, we've got Buzz and Woody for this tour. Excellent. So there is the ride. Of course, you can interact with it to turn it on, have some nice kinetic energy moving, and you can obviously get on it as well, which is super fun. Coming off to the left, we've got the concession stand. Once you've gotten off the ride, we can walk past Woody underneath the lights, around all this toy area, directly to Woody's house, of course, which we're doubling up as a ride for the purpose of this build. So a nice little carousel ride if you want to jump on there. We do have some popcorn too, if you want to take some of that over to one of the lovely benches that we've got placed around. Coming back to the center section, we've got that Buzz RV just there on the left with some photo opportunities inside those photo booths if you wanted to take some pictures, say you were visiting the land. Super fun. And we do have the Pizza Planet, or actually the Alien Pizza Planet, I should make clear. So the food area with the food court, we've got the different seats on there. We don't actually have any of those as individual items, which would be fun. They always make things like that, but don't give us the individual pieces. We do have these nice seats just out the back, which is a nice little food area. I could probably place some pizzas down on these tables just to make it a bit more realistic, but I like how this looks. It feels nice and open and airy, so there's enough seating to really dig into your food. We've got another path around here that comes around the back with some more toy blocks. All of the lights, of course, the balloons, making it feel like a theme park. Instead of coming back to the middle section where the ride is down there, we can, of course, come over. Again, just a nice little path around this statue, which I think it's that kind of stuff that makes it feel, I don't know, complete, rather than just having a straight path across. And then we do have the Slinky Dog spin ride, which you can interact with again, of course. Turn that on to make it go round. Bring that energy back into the game and make it all feel alive. Coming out of that ride, you can take two paths again, going back to the middle section, or you can come around the edge here. Follow this round underneath all those big lights, past all of the toy stuff, into kind of like the plaza bit where you've got the shopping store if you do want to go in and buy some merchandise or some toys for your visit. And then off to the right, we've got some more food and drink. We've got the snack carts, the pretzels, and then we've got this little, I guess, play area, arcade area down the back where you can win some prizes, test your strength, all of those good things. All fitting in theme, which is the best part of all. And then you can make your way out, follow this path around, and you will be back at the center section. So all in all, I really love how this turned out. I think it was super fun, and I think it definitely fits the Toy Story vibe. And I'm glad I did this build, something a bit different for me.